That's what we are seeing here with the Indiana Fever. We have to push this hate and jealousy to the side. It's so unnecessary. I hope that we move past it. She's elevating the game. She continues to do it and prove herself.
If you don't get how much Caitlin Clark has impacted the WNBA in terms of viewership, popularity, and attendance, you're missing something big.
We need a league built around Caitlin Clark.
With all the data we now have, it's hard to deny. We've honestly never seen anyone create such a buzz like this.
The league could not be in a more exciting place than it is right now.
Certainly, the attention on women's basketball right now is at an all-time high, and this league has been poised and ready for at least the last 2 decades for this moment. We have the star power, we have the elite play on the floor, but it's been a bit of a hidden gem. Well, it's not going to be hidden much longer, and a lot of that is because of this draft class and Caitlin Clark.
In my entire career, I can't recall a single person having this level of influence.
Hold on, I think you're a great basketball player. I mean, I can't play like you do.
Yeah, we know. And obviously, I can't tell jokes like you do.
That said, I don't think it's necessary to keep talking about the ratings with and without Clark.
You said there's been a robust conversation around the Final Four. I don't know what's bigger than robust, but it got even bigger this season. It's robustier this year. And how do we play? How do we build off of last year? More talent, more eyes on the game, more bodies here at the draft to cheer and celebrate this draft class. It's gotten better and better.
It's pretty clear by now. It only stirs up more division among fans.
Talking with Sue Bird, I think she uses a great word to describe what it's like watching Caitlin. And she says, it's thrilling. We know she's great. We know she's captivated the country. Why? What about Caitlin makes her so captivated?
Caitlin Clark is different from any other player we have ever seen in the women's game, and it starts with the distance with which she shoots the basketball. We've never seen a player shoot from that deep range with that kind of efficiency.
Let's look at the latest ratings. Caitlin's final game had 2.54 million viewers, which is a massive number, and the next highest game drew in 929,000 viewers after the Fever were eliminated. Now, while that's a big drop, keep in mind that 929,000 is still more than what last year's WNBA finals brought in, and that was competing against an NFL game.
Nike has not done one thing to promote her. We have not seen any commercials, we have not seen any ads, we have not seen any Caitlin Clark merchandise, and we for sure as hell have not seen any Caitlin Clark signature shoes.
Sure, no other game is going to match the level of interest Caitlin Clark or the Indiana Fever bring, but WNBA interest is climbing.
I don't understand this. Many of these people, like Asia, are so used to being able to dispense and force white guilt upon others that when people don't comply, then it becomes something they can't even handle.
The Liberty versus Aces feels like a major event, and Sabrina Ionescu is shining bright during this moment. I'm saying this because from a positive angle, the Barclays Center was packed when I was there last night.
This NBA playoff ratings dip post Caitlin Clark is the sports version of white flight and gentrification. You hate it when they're here. You don't like their presence. Oh my God, look at what they're doing. They're so awful. Then when they leave, the Caitlin flight, oh my God, I can't, what do we do now?
No one was asking, where's Caitlin Clark? We don't care anymore. I do get why Clark's fans might be reacting this way though. They feel like she hasn't been given her due recognition, like no Nike shoe deal and other similar things.
And these players that are now complaining, if there are any, about the ratings, about being abandoned. Well, wait a minute. Many of you were the very same ones that was pointing the finger and saying you're racist and we don't want or need your support. So in theory, you're getting what you want, and you should be happy for the lower ratings. So be careful what you wish for.
Their response is naturally, look at this, look at that, pointing out these perceived slights. But honestly, at this point, it feels like arguing with nothing.
Everything Asia Wilson is saying is I probably tend to think it wasn't even on accident. Knew she was being recorded, knew it would get out there. And it was, because I think this was a year ago, and it's gone viral now this week. But to me, it was a message being sent to Caitlin Clark of like, you want to come into our league, this is how you need to be.
Seriously, Asia, Caitlin Clark is out there earning her spot.
And I think it's a message to Nike. Again, as I talked about last week, based off the Ethan Strauss deal, A'ja Wilson has a signature shoe and logo with Nike. No one's going to buy her shoe. No one cares. But Nike's bending over backwards trying to please A'ja Wilson and Don Staley and the whole BLM crowd. We got to promote A'ja first.
It's hard to see all that's happened and not agree that Caitlin Clark is in a league of her own when it comes to drawing attention.
And so there's a mindset that A'ja has to adopt to justify getting treatment she knows she doesn't deserve.
Still, as I've always believed, when the league grows, everyone benefits.
She doesn't play. She's the Tim Duncan of the WNBA. Hey, that's great. I love Tim Duncan. Great player. Doesn't sell shoes. Doesn't drive TV ratings. That's not what he does. That's who A'ja Wilson is.
It'll only add to Clark's legacy if the WNBA keeps rising as a whole.
But she has to adopt this mindset of, I'm owed this, and you white girls need to back your ass up while I get what's owed to me. It's all just it's endless reparations.
Stephen A. made a good point when he talked about standout athletes. He mentioned that the difference with Caitlin is she's not just bringing attention to herself, she's elevating the entire league. Yes, the WNBA was already seeing some growth, but what we're witnessing now is on a whole other level.
A'ja Wilson has had the most difficult season of her career. She couldn't get the credit she deserved because Caitlin Clark showed up, and this is proof that her life is 10 times as hard as, to get the same credit. She's MVP of the league, I think, for the third time. She's won 2 championships. She's got a statue at the University of South Carolina. Have we not done enough to celebrate A'ja Wilson? Have you contributed to her life being 10 times as hard?
We've definitely seen a ripple effect lately. I've noticed that many of Caitlin Clark's fans are starting to engage with other games, athletes, and storylines, which is great to see. For instance, the Aces Liberty game happened on Sunday, and I expect that the game last night, even without being on broadcast TV, might attract even more viewers. It's important to keep things in perspective. Caitlin Clark is undoubtedly the biggest draw for the WNBA, but at the same time, the league is gaining more interest and fans.
Well, I mean, look, I want to be a little sympathetic towards Miss Wilson. After all, for the first time in a long time, people were actually watching her play basketball. So that added stress of the much bigger audience certainly came into play.
I've said this before. Social media doesn't always reflect reality. What really matters are the viewers tuning in on TV and those buying tickets to attend games.
And then it just makes people just make excuses for why they don't get where they get. The other thing I think it does is it blinds them to reality, because Stephen A. Smith was like, oh, well, if we were white, we would have more money and we would. And I'm just like, okay, who are the most marketable sports stars in America, right? Shohei Ohtani is basically the modern Babe Ruth. Nobody knows who he is.
We're seeing a noticeable increase in attendance and viewership, and that's something to celebrate. However, sometimes discussions get sidetracked. When we were brainstorming headlines for this story on women's basketball for SI, I didn't want it to seem like we were putting down the rest of the WNBA since the numbers are still good. But it is part of the story that Caitlin's numbers are significantly higher and have dropped since she's been out.
I don't understand this line of thinking. I don't think it, as you said, it doesn't fit the day and age in which we're in. And then the other thing, and I think this is probably the worst thing, it engenders not just a sense of victimhood, but a sense of envy.
That's why I landed on the phrase pleasantly plummet for the title of this video. It reflects how WNBA ratings have surprisingly dipped while still reaching new heights.
Because you can never be thankful for where you are, because you're always saying, well, if I was only white, I would be even further.
As for A'ja Wilson, I don't think her recent ESPN interview helped her case much. To me, she comes across as a bit insecure, as if she feels there's always something working against her. But honestly, if you look at this season, she's mostly been celebrated. From the start of the year, the narrative was all about A'ja Wilson being the MVP. If you didn't see her as the best player in the league, there must be something wrong with you. That message has been repeated constantly. The talk about her not getting enough recognition has been so loud that I can't imagine anyone believing she hasn't been acknowledged enough. In fact, the sheer volume of that conversation is a form of recognition in itself. She absolutely deserves the praise. She's had a fantastic season, arguably one of the best in the league's history. But just because some critiques are mild, or because she hasn't captured the spotlight as much as others, doesn't mean the world is against her. I've been closely following this season, and I'd say Aja is definitely among the top players. However, I don't see a huge gap between her and other players in that group. For instance, she's currently facing Brianna Stewart from the Liberty. In my opinion, my all-WNBA first team would include Aja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Clear, Caitlin Clark, and Sabrina Ionescu. I believe these are the best players in the league right now, and the differences between them aren't that significant.
Caitlin Clark got all but one Rookie of the Year vote. She will not have the distinction of being a unanimous Rookie of the Year. And a lot of people are celebrating that. They're excited. They stay strong, whoever it was that, kept it real and blah, blah, and denied her that distinction.
In her latest ESPN interview, Aja mentioned her experiences as a black woman and how she has to work harder. While I can't speak to that perspective, having covered sports, I've seen that black athletes in the NBA often don't face as many barriers in gaining recognition. In the WNBA, there's an interesting situation because unlike the NBA, where there aren't many white American superstars, really just Larry Bird and a couple of players like Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic, there seems to be a higher number of standout white players in the WNBA, such as Stewie, Clark, Sabrina, Plum, and Diana Taurasi. It's hard to explain, especially considering that the league is predominantly black, with around 85% of the players being women of color.
Is it a big, I would tend to think Caitlin Clark doesn't care, but she probably does care a little bit. If I was 22 and I would want to be in that elite class of Aaliyah Boston, again, I've already named the names and I can't name the one girl's name because I don't really care or know what her name is.
Elena Deladon?
There it is, Elena Deladon. There you go, thank you, Delano. Those are the people that have been unanimous Rookie of the Years.
Aja Wilson has her own experiences, and she's absolutely entitled to express her feelings. However, I don't see any of the players in that category getting more recognition than they deserve. They've all proven their skills on the court.
I think it's a little deal because ultimately when you tick off the accomplishments of the greats, no one... It'll be, okay, this person won 4 or 5 or 6 MVPs, and no one says, well, these 4 were unanimous and the other 2 were not. I think this is a big deal for Caitlin Clark, not because, it may hurt her feelings, but because this goes exactly to the point we're talking about. Victimhood is a extremely seductive siren and an extremely addictive drug.
Caitlin Clark, though, is a different case entirely.
And if Caitlin Clark does not watch it, some of her backers, right? I saw a guy who online, a conservative that I know, I think I've met him in person, when she got fouled hard early in the season, was like, we should check to see if there are hate crime laws in that state. And I said, come on, guys. And if she's not careful, there will be people in her ear that say, you should make yourself look like a victim in the same way that these other people do. And I think that would be the worst thing for her.
Her popularity isn't just due to marketing. Rather, it's her popularity that drives the promotion.
Us as black women, Paige reminds me a lot of you. Like, you say you're not really about me. And she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point. And also, like, she's good at basketball, obviously. But, like, she understands her privilege. It's like what pushes her over the top, in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you. And I mean, that's a compliment.
Aja also addressed some criticisms about her game being boring, a topic that has come up this season. Some fans have compared her to Tim Duncan, and I've made similar comparisons, noting that while Duncan was the better player, Allen Iverson sold more shoes. Aja is a fantastic player. She's quick on the court, has a great mid-range shot, and consistently creates second chances around the basket. She's an impressive rim protector, but her style of play might not grab attention the way others do. Typically, the players who captivate fans are the ones ones handling the ball, shooting from far, or driving to the basket. Aja is given the ball quite a bit by the Aces, taking nearly 20 shots a game this year. If Aja doesn't want to be labeled boring, I completely understand. Nobody likes that title. However, there's a natural reason why fans might not connect with her style as much as they do with playmakers or high-energy scorers. One part of her interview stood out to me as a bit concerning. She mentioned feeling exhausted and expressed dread about being in Indiana, implying fear of the Fever's fan base and their behavior. I think it's essential for WNBA players to avoid generalizing about Fever fans or any fan group. Most fans at these events are there to support their teams, bringing their kids and having a good time.
I'm going to mention this again. One of the more interesting aspects of this fanhood is that some of the biggest supporters of Caitlin Clark are not whites. They're actually black males. So that has become something that for them, that word, problematic. And it's also sort of a cultural debate on the other side of the street. But that's the issue, though.
They're not looking to stir up trouble. When new fans join and are criticized based on a few bad apples, it doesn't help the league's growth or their own popularity, which Aja has voiced concerns about in the interview.
And I don't think America already has too many victims. I don't think she needs to add her name to that list.
There's also an unfair labeling happening with black fans supporting Clark and the Fever. Implications are being made about both black and white fans, but many fans of all backgrounds have come to watch because of Caitlin Clark.
Because she's so critical. And again, as the Jackie Robinson, she has success. It's going to encourage and inspire other women to stand up.
Her biggest supporters include many black fans, and it's unjust to judge a whole group based on the actions of a few individuals.
Even though, Caitlin's doing it very subtly, if at all. Maybe it's all unintentional. But I do know she's the target.
This applies to any demographic, whether it's race, sexual orientation, or anything else.
You had too many women tatted up and looking like men, that it was unattractive. People don't want to see that.
If the conversation continues to revolve around Fever fans instead of what's happening on the court, it's not beneficial for Aja. She's still playing right now, and it would be great to focus on her game. Everyone is free to express their opinions, and while I might not agree, it's okay to have a dialogue. However, I don't think these discussions help her image as a player or her overall brand, which seems to have taken a back seat in recent conversations.
And so this whole thing of, racism stopped the WNBA. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Here's the facts. Here's what's been the problem with the WNBA. Now, I'm sorry, these are just true facts.
But maybe I'm mistaken. That's just my take. Las Vegas Aces guard Kelsey Plum recently expressed her strong belief that if her teammate Aja Wilson hadn't been unanimously named MVP this season, there would surely be conspiracy theories surrounding the decision.
Someone showed up here who plays good enough basketball to draw attention, and now people are actually evaluating my basketball. They're having conversations about, well, who's Rookie of the Year? Who's the MVP? Is it Caitlin Clark? Is it A'ja Wilson? People are talking about basketball.
A'ja Wilson earned the WNBA MVP title for 2024 after an impressive season, averaging 26.9 points, 11.9 rebounds, 2.58 blocked shots, and 1.79 steals in 34.4 minutes over 38 games. She not only led the league in points and blocks, but also ranked second in rebounds, fifth in steals, and fourth in minutes played, setting career highs in all 5 categories. This marks Wilson's third MVP award, having previously won in 2020 and 2022. With this achievement, she joins the ranks of only 4 players in WNBA history to win 3 MVPs, and is the first to be a unanimous winner since Cynthia Cooper did so in 1997. While Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark was initially part of the MVP conversation, she ultimately secured the title of WNBA Rookie of the Year.
They're all trying to frame this the Caitlin Clark deal in this racial envelope, and they're wrong.
Kelsey Plum made it clear that there was only one deserving candidate for the MVP title, showing her admiration for Wilson.
They're not talking about basketball because you don't want to talk about basketball, just as you described there. You couldn't get any traction based on your basketball, and so you decided, Hey, we got to talk about racism and sexism to draw attention.
If she's not the unanimous MVP, I have conspiracy theories, Plum told SB Nation. I mean, I really will have conspiracy theories, you know? I don't even know who else you put in the conversation, to be honest.
We have to kneel during the national anthem to draw attention. It's bad strategy. You just wanted attention. You were being an attention whore.
Plum did face some backlash after a mid-game interview during a matchup against the Fever, where her comments seemed dismissive. When asked how the Aces managed to halt Indiana's momentum during their comeback, Plum replied, "I don't know, come back to me later," before adding, "I don't know, we have good players." Some fans interpreted her remarks as a jab at Clark, insinuating that Plum was downplaying her talent. However, in her post-game interview, Plum addressed the social media frenzy, insisting she wasn't affected by the criticism. "I mean, I thought we did a great job as a team, but Kelsey Mitchell was cooking," Plum said. "She had a couple on me as well, so I didn't want to say anything stupid, so I just said come back to me." Plum also noted, "I don't even have social media on my phone. No offense, but like, we have good players. I would hope so. Not disrespectful. We have competitors. Pick one. That's what I meant. People these days don't say the truth."